Good evening, I'm Craig Andrus. Thanks for joining us again. This is Call the Mayor, Wichita, 316-491-5787. You can ask any question you want. The mayor is here tonight, Jeff Longwell. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We had an election, so I guess I'll just ask because I know people are going to call and they're going to ask about the election, and that's okay. Look, we'll take anything here, 316-491-5787. So I guess what comes next for you? You've been in public service for a long time.
Yeah, 25 years in public service, 12 years on a school board, 8 years as a council member, and 4.5 as mayor. And 25 years of my life is a big sacrifice, certainly a big sacrifice not only on my part, but my family's part. And I would just tell you, I think my son shared it best, and we didn't know this on election night that he said this. Some friends told us about a week later, but they were trying to console him and say, we're so sorry about the turnout. And he goes, don't be sorry for me. He goes, I get my dad back. So, how can you... How can you feel bad about that? We get a life back. No one wants to go out that way, but we feel really good about what we've accomplished in our 25 years of service, starting with the school board and all that we were able to help achieve out there. And it was a fantastic group, and Mays is a really good school district that I served on. But we fixed a lot of things in West Wichita. We fixed flooding. We fixed a bridge over the big ditch, now the Mitch Mitchell floodway that I had a part in helping name, and just took care of a lot of issues, including putting Wichita back on the map, literally, and the river corridor and all of the old buildings downtown filling up. And it's exciting to see. I like the momentum. We have companies moving back downtown, and Wichita's in a good place. We have a good group.
Well, the number is 316-491-5787. You can ask him about any legacy questions you like or anything the city's currently still doing, and there is a lot going on. First off, I did want to say congratulations on this federal grant. It's not a loan, it's a federal grant. $14 million is going to be going now to the city of Wichita. Now, that's been announced by Ron Estes, U.S. Congressman. He also helped bring that thing in here, and I believe you thanked him already for that.
Absolutely.
That money, $14 million, is going to go somewhere in Delano.
So next to the baseball stadium, we're going to build a multimodal facility that will house transit. It will also hold a parking garage for the baseball stadium, and serve the community very, very well, and paid for with our federal tax dollars that are coming back to Wichita. So thank you, Congressman Estes, and the folks at the federal government that felt like that was just a really good use of those funds, and it's going to help that area immensely. And on top of that, we're still working out some surface parking, so we'll have plenty of parking, people. It'll be fine. It's a great solution to what's going to be an outstanding river corridor.
Now, I kind of broke the story on my day job talking about this. It looks like we're going to get a parking facility with 600 spaces there. It's also going to house electric bus plug-ins so that we can plug those in. It's also going to have some bicycle facilities for the bicycle exchange. In addition to that, though, do we know the makeup of where this might go, or is this just something that we're going to start diving into? So are we going to have something above ground, underground? What do we know?
So it'll be above ground, and we have options of where we can place it, and all really good options. If we do it right, I think it'll be a parking garage that could potentially have 2 entrances and exits, which will make it easier to unload at game time and make it a lot more appealing for people to park there, because parking garages are always a little bit of an issue when you're unloading all at the same time. And if you can design it where you have 2 exits, it's much more appealing, right? You can get people out of there.
Sure. Will we have a request for a proposal? I guess we'll have to. I talked to the Delano crowd today that said, we love parking. We're going to need somewhere. So they seem to be, the Delano advocates seemed very excited about this concept.
Yeah,
but also
we'll
have some surface parking there. And that's going to go around the village area. So we'll still
the Sycamore Street area will have some surface parking, and it'll work perfect with the Delano neighborhood and the ballpark itself. So the parking at the park will be much more accommodating than what was there before.
Well, I guess let's talk baseball for a little bit here. 316-491-5787. That's your number. Call, ask the mayor any questions you want. I'd like to hear some legacy questions about some things that you've done while you've been mayor. But If we could talk baseball for a second, I do know that we're going to still be playing ball April of
April
2020.
14th is the first game.
first
home game is April 14th.
It was kind of cool to see the merchandise come out. A little
Yeah.
disappointed my name wasn't picked.
I know. We should have. It would have been perfect.
But I love the name. It's starting to grow on me. When I first heard it, I thought, you know, what was that? So I caught myself saying it again. So now I'm on board. I like it. The first time I heard it, I wasn't sure what to think, but I got into my sports announcer voice and tried it out. It works.
They set a one-day record for merchandise sales.
Which is awesome, by the way. So I know that the excitement had built up over time for this.
Yeah. So somebody didn't hate it.
No, and I didn't. It's not that I hated it. It's just
Right.
I had to say it twice to get used to it. And then I
Sure.
thought, well, wow. So no, the merchandise that is selling like crazy.
It's selling like crazy, and it's a good-looking logo. The uniforms look like Major League uniforms, and it's just going to be a first-rate venue that people are going to fall in love with. It really is special.
Well, I got out there and took some video actually today before this broadcast, and I noticed that the construction's really coming along. Are we still on the time frame there?
Yeah, it'll be finished in March and first game in April, and so I think they'll probably plan some events in March to let the community see the finished stadium and the product, and it's just, I think that the community doesn't have any idea until they step foot in there what they truly have.
And by the way, if you haven't been by there, go ahead and drive by. It is interesting to see. It looks much larger than Lawrence Dumont looked. It looks more expansive, but there's a reason for that. You've got things on the Delano side. You've got things up closer to the river.
Right.
And again, tell me about the facing side of the river there. That's almost looks like a separate building when you go by and see it there.
So that's going to be their gift shop will be on that side. It'll be pretty expansive gift shop, merchandise shop. It will also have a baseball museum in it that's nearly 6,000 square feet. That's going to be pretty special and house a lot of baseball exhibits, and then the offices for the team are there. And this is what people don't realize. This team has a lot of personnel to operate this size of an operation. To put it in perspective, you know, the previous team only had about, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 full-time employees. This team's going to have 40-some full-time and 300 part-time. So it's a
lot.
It's a considerable larger operation, and everything's just literally on the major league level. We've been told by folks in baseball that this will easily be the finest minor league stadium in baseball, and probably better than about 12 major league stadiums that are in use today. That's how nice it is.
Did they mention Kauffman Stadium by chance?
So no,
kind of fond of that one.
I am too. Who knows what's going to happen with that in the future with the new owners? And
yes.
Been talking about building a new stadium downtown. And
indeed.
And baseball stadiums work well downtown. You know, when you have so many events, and this is going to be more than baseball. You know, baseball's 70 games a year, but they want to hold 200 events down there. So it's going to be concerts and football games and soccer games and Winter Wonderland and
Riverfest. Oh, Winter Wonderland. Let's get back to that
so
again.
That's just a cool theme, and they want to look at putting an ice skating rink out there on the field or somewhere in the stadium, and have a Santa Village, and you know, all of the things that will draw people there in the wintertime. And I think it's just truly going to be a special venue.
Okay, my boy is 16, and he actually said he was interested in going to Santa Village. I don't know why, but he said he would go. So
I would go.
Big kid.
Absolutely.
Well, I am too. I would go. 316-491-5787. If you'd like to ask about the Delano question and the parking in the area for the baseball stadium, if you'd like to ask about anything, stormwater, runoff. Now, let's get back to that thought, because you said one of the things that you'd accomplished was that work on the big ditch and the naming of that. That's such a neat legacy piece here, is the naming of that. Remind people about Mitch.
So Mitch Mitchell was a tremendous gentleman who built his legacy around fixing flooding, and that was literally a fight from the very beginning, because nobody wanted it. It was expensive. The farmers were shooting at him as they were trying to clear the space to put in the floodway, and literally was a battle from day one. And you know, it fixed a lot of the flooding, but we had more work to do in West Wichita, and we did a lot of that when I became a council member, and we put in a lot more retention ponds, and areas that were prone to flooding out west are no longer flooding out west, and so we fixed a lot of that.
When I first heard about the retention ponds, I thought, okay, that's something we tried on our farm years ago. I thought, well, why hasn't the city? Well, the city did think about it.
Right.
So, tell me how those kind of work. And I know it's a simple process for me because I understand it, but for the people at home, it literally keeps Wichita from flooding.
So we have some significant sized ponds that are really dry most of the time because they need to hold water when it comes in, right? And so they all have pump stations on them, and when you have a rain event of significance and they do fill up, then you pump them down after the rain event has passed and you prepare for the next rain event. But it literally just holds the water that normally would have flooded West Wichita homes and streets, and it just simply takes care of the issues. So there's a significant flood mitigation project that was built on the Cowskin, some with federal monies. We built the massive, they're dry detention ponds or retention ponds, whatever you want to call them, at New Market Square, where the Cadillac Lake area was prone to flooding, and now that's a wildlife park and the largest urban wetland park probably in the country, and surrounding that wetland park are these retention ponds that will hold a tremendous amount of runoff when it rains. And so there's some there's some behind the Target store. We built a new one behind the Walmart at Central in the Cowskin.
Yes.
And so we just did a number of projects that fixed, the massive west side flooding, and combined with what the big ditch can hold, it was well tested this year.
Yes, indeed it was. I will say that. The only time I've seen the big ditch that full was 1993 with the flooding there.
Right.
That's the same. Okay, well, actually we have a caller. Mark, you are on the show. What is your question for the mayor? Welcome.
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, Mark. What's your question? Welcome to the show.
Well, I was just wondering what Jeff was planning to do after his session.
Well, that's a great question, Mark, and I will tell you that we haven't made up our mind yet. And so it's nice that we've had multiple offers, and we're weighing each one, and it's a decision that our family will make together, and we'll figure out what's the best fit for us. But I can tell you we're not planning on going into government. We're planning on going into the private industry, and we'll figure out truly what provides the passion in our life, and the reality is we'll have a little bit of a life again, because I don't think people realize the hours that you put in when you're mayor. It's every evening, and most weekends are taken up with a wide variety of events, from ribbon cuttings to speaking engagements. The first year that I was mayor, I gave 235 speeches.
Okay, totally believe that. Every time I've been to an event, he's there, and it doesn't matter what time of the month. So it is a tremendous time.
It's a big time commitment on the position. And how do you turn? I'm speaking to a group of scouts coming up here in about a week, and I love going into classrooms and talking to the kids, and talking to homeowners associations, and talking to a multiple of different groups that just want to hear what's going on in the city. And so we've always said yes, and it's hard to say no, and it's just a big time commitment.
Well, we have another question for you now. If you could take this one, 316-491-5787. Greg, you are on the show. What is your question for the mayor?
Oh, we lost him.
I think we lost him. Greg, call back. I got the essence of his question before, and he was asking about street repairs. Greg, if you're there, if we got you back, go ahead. You're on the show.
All right. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Why on the streets that we have in Wichita, how come that priority is taken above the taxpayer, such as Spirit, getting all the railroad tracks fixed? And how come that when we do have something repaired, like K-15 a few years ago, it was so botchly done and the quality of the work is unacceptable? Why are our streets going undone when Powerball and lottery were supposed to take care of all that? Can you answer that question, please?
So I'm happy to answer that question. I'm not sure the lottery's providing any opportunities for us to do street repair, but I will tell you it was only a couple of years ago that the council made the decision that we were going to change the way that we do street repairs. And before we would go in and do crack and seal repairs and leave that. Now we do an overcoat on every one of those. And so that was a policy change, and so we are changing the way that we do streets and doing them much better than we had in years past. And it really was exactly what you said, where we felt like we weren't getting the best bang for our buck, and certainly the community wasn't happy. And so we did change that. Now when you see street repairs done on all the major arterials, when we go and repair them, we do an additional overlay now, where we didn't used to do one 3 years ago, and today we do that overlay. And so it does make a big difference. And you can see it all over town. I can tell you, when you talk about priorities, each council person, we have 6 council districts, they get a big say in what happens in their district, and so we divide up the dollars to the different districts, and then they set their priorities as a council person and visiting with their community on what is the best and highest priority, and that's typically how projects rise to the top of the list. So it's not the mayor saying, I think we ought to do this street or that street, or let's go fix the streets around Spirit. It's truly each council person helping make that decision and what's best for their area. And there's a number of streets that are going on right now, especially in South Wichita. We just fixed Harry Street. Yes. That was much needed, and we've done Pawnee Street down in South Wichita. That just finished about a year ago, and we did South Meridian. That's fantastic, and fixed some of the flooding. We're getting ready to do West Street over there between Kellogg and K42, and that's going to be a much needed repair. And so we're fixing streets all over. We're getting ready to do 17th Street up north next to McAdams Park, and that's going to be a fabulous new street, and it's not going to be just repaired, it's going to be a new overlay there too. And so we're fixing them all over town. We did 13th Street a few years ago, North 13th Street, and so we're fixing them all over town. But we did make a conscious decision to add an overlay on the main arterials anytime we go in and fix streets.
Well, I will say this, council members tell me all the time, and some of them have told you on this show, they don't get enough phone calls from people who want to see some action, or they don't get the email.
They need to hear from them.
Email and call.
Absolutely.
They will get
they
back
want
to
hear
you.
from you.
Well, I hope that answered your question. Thank you for calling. 316-491-5787 is the number that you can call right now. Kim, you have a question about the river. You are on the show, Kim. Go ahead.
Hi, Mayor. I've lived here all my life. I've never seen the river look like it does. I'm wondering why it's so low.
Sure.
It's going to come back up.
Yeah. So we lowered it on purpose. And so we had to lower the river because of all of the new drainage that we're putting in around the ballpark, and to fix the pipes that need to go in. We had to get the water down below the drainage area. So if you drive by McLean and Maple, you'll see a giant hole in the ground, and that's where they're putting in some stormwater drainage to make sure that that whole area drains properly. And then once that is put in, and we'll put the dam back up and we'll raise the water level. But we intentionally lowered the river so that they could do repairs.
Okay. There, I hope that answered it. Okay. 316-491-5787 is a question. Legacy question if you want, or anything else. Sean, you are on the show. What is your question for the mayor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Before you leave your office, can you somehow get the transit center buses to be on time?
Well, we are trying to fix the transit center buses, and I tell you, Mike Tan's doing a great job, and have a lot of faith in him. What we need to do is change transit from a hub and spoke to a grid system, and we'll have a hybrid version of that we're working on right now that will help fix that. We have some electric buses coming in December, and that's going to change some opportunities too. And we need to put more money in transit. You know, when we sold the Hyatt, we took $4 million of the sale of the Hyatt and we put it into transit, but that was a Band-Aid. And so there's more revenue that we need to find to truly fix transit. It's certainly going to be a lingering issue until we find the right revenue to fix it. But this new $14 million is going to provide opportunities to put in a new transit hub, and I think that will help tremendously.
Now, are we changing the model completely now that we're getting this new $14 million in?
So we were planning
hub
on
versus-
changing that already, and so we were looking at trying to slowly work towards a hybrid grid system.
Okay. And as far as the hybrid grid system goes, is there going to be any outreach of expanding, or are we going to stay with the core of what we have right now? I haven't asked Mike Tan about this.
I don't know that we have the revenue at this point to go out further. I would love to see our transit become a metropolitan transit, because right now there's no differentiating between Wichita and Mays, and we can't run buses into Mays right now because it isn't allowed, because we're just a Wichita transit system, not a metro. And so the structure of that would have to change significantly to expand the routes out further.
No, I will say this. My grandfather used to ride on the interurban from Newton to Wichita.
Yeah.
And it was shut down because of money.
Right.
I
Yeah.
know these things take money.
It only takes money.
316-491-5787 is the number. Fred, you have a question. You're on the show. Welcome, Fred. What is your question?
Yes, my question is, and I heard this during the city council meeting a couple of weeks ago that I couldn't quite understand. Is the city going to go through the older homes west of Delano or right in the Delano district and make certain that they're fixed up or start condemning them? Or I know the city has a bad habit of whenever they build something really nice that they start going through the neighborhoods and start putting little placards on their on buildings and homes demanding that people fix up their houses. So what's going to happen to some of those older homes? Are you going to demand that those people fix them up, or are you going to condemn them? Or it can, because the city can be very aggressive on that. And that's my question.
Well, a great question, and the reality is we don't want to see anyone live in substandard housing, and if it is in violation of city code, they often will put a sticker on something that they know there's a violation of, but they don't go out and start targeting neighborhoods. We gave $800,000 last year to Mennonite Housing and another agency to help them build affordable housing to those that can't afford it. And we have some other plans that I think you'll see rolled out very soon that will encourage a rebuild, reinvestment of older homes in urban parts of the city, and we would love to see that. And we have programs for those that can't afford to fix up their house. We'll supply them with many of the supplies that they need to fix up their home if you meet certain income guidelines. And so I would tell you, I don't know that the city acts so much as a bully. If you can't afford to fix up your house, I would encourage you to reach out to our housing department and see if they can't provide some assistance to whoever owns a home and doesn't have the money to fix it up, that there's programs to help those.
Okay, so 2 weeks ago, that was an excellent question, by the way. So 2 weeks ago at City Council, the last one that I saw part of, there was a woman there who had her house condemned, and I know there's a process that they go through, and the city
Right.
actually gave her, I guess, an extension to
Right.
try and get things put together.
Right.
So there's a process there. Can you
Right.
give us like the 30-second version of that?
So there is a process, and sometimes that can take years, but if there are major violations and the house is in dire straits and it's not safe, then it can be potentially condemned, but we try and give people the opportunity to fix that if they can fix it. But we don't want people to live in unsafe conditions. And so whether they need help or a program, we are fixing up a house right now for an individual in the city and getting a new house built for her. And I'm not going to name names, but when it's finished and it's nearly done, I think her house payment's $75 a month.
Wow. And I know the city's invested heavily in Mennonite housing too, and gone there. So
Right, right.
Do I know this individual? I'm
You
curious.
do know this individual.
Okay, I think I know who it is, and she.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I know
so-
this person. I don't know her that well, but I know her, and yeah,
No.
she's. Okay, so work with the city. Ask your questions.
Right.
Ask your questions here too.
Right.
316-491-5787. Leanne, you have a question for the mayor. You are on the show, Leanne. What is your question?
We lost Leanne?
Leanne?
Lynn?
There.
Hi, you are on the show. Welcome. What is your question?
Yes, I would like to know if there's any way one can get a personal meeting with the mayor.
Sure. I mean, you can call up to City Hall and visit with the gals there in the office, and they'll happily find a time if possible. And I've been that way for the last 4.5 years. I've met with a lot of individuals in the mayor's office and happy to do so. I'm only going to be mayor through January 14th, so if you want to talk to this mayor, you have a short window.
What's the main number for the desk at council there?
So 268-4331.
4331.
Yeah, 268-4331, and they'll typically accommodate you. Depending on what your question is, I would highly encourage people to visit with their council person, because every district has a council representative, and oftentimes if it's a district issue, they are the ones to turn to.
Many times. Well, I thank you for the question. Remind me later in the show to repeat that number if she didn't get it in
Absolutely.
time. And we'll get it for you. Call the mayor, 316-491-5787. I want to talk about a couple of legacy things here because we're about at the half-hour mark. I know we've got some kind of before and after pictures that I wanted to throw up and just have you talk about a little bit, because you've been involved with city politics for a very long time.
Absolutely.
Some of the milestones that we've seen, I know Cargill's been here, but here, so tell me what we're looking at here. This is electric. Oh, well, okay, these are going to go really fast. So these are the changes that we've seen over time.
So obviously, we have seen tremendous investment in the city all along the core area, and you're seeing some of those changes from Hillside and Douglas. There's new housing opportunities, new mixed-use development. The EPC's building a new housing development, mixed-use space next to the library. Of course, we built the new library. You're seeing some of the investments that people are making along the core area. As I mentioned, there's very few empty buildings any longer. We have a new law enforcement, and that's the picture up right now, new law enforcement training center that we should have made the decision 15 years ago, and it just took forever for us to finally make that decision to build that's the new library, which is getting great use.
And they're rolling it again here. That law enforcement training center has been so widely used now.
Absolutely, and it's just, from the airport to the library to the law enforcement training center to the River Vista apartments that you see a picture of right there. That looks like the Hillside building.
Yeah.
What do we call that there?
Actually, I don't know.
I know. So right there.
Sorry, it escapes me at the moment.
Right there at just about a block east of Hillside. Yes. You're seeing a picture of the airport. And we rebuilt one of the parking garages downtown. That looks like that shot of it right there.
Cargill, happy to have them here.
Cargill is a fantastic addition to the Wichita landscape, and it is a first-class building. The Ice House across from Cargill is going through a tremendous renovation. Union Station, Spaghetti Warehouse, Hilton Garden Inn, IMA's moving back downtown, the Renew Apartments downtown, the old state office building's going through a transformation. We have a crane downtown because Fidelity's building a 4-story parking garage and a 10-story tower, and pretty soon we'll have two cranes downtown next year when IMA starts in on their building.
Well, you have mentioned this before.
Merit Trust is moving downtown.
Merit Trust is the other one that's coming downtown, and they're going to have a structure. It will be tall.
Yeah, so it's just great to see that kind of investment. The Hilton Garden Inn's going to have a rooftop pool and bar area.
Okay, is the rumor true? Is that, because it's on Douglas, if you haven't seen it, drive by. Is it really going to have a glass bottom pool?
So it does. It overhangs the sidewalk there.
I have to try that just to see if I can stomach
look
it.
up I don't know if I'd want to swim out over the sidewalk and look down.
I'm sure it'll be safe. There are engineers who are qualified PEs.
Absolutely. So but it really is just nice to see those pictures and the investment that's being made in our city, and it's changed everything. You can go downtown now and you see life, and you see people milling around, and just a real vibrancy. And
okay, since you brought up downtown, this is the one question that was emailed to me earlier this morning. What can the city do? And look, the city doesn't bring these private businesses in per se.
Right.
Business is going to come in where they want to go in and try and make a go of it. But the question has been asked to me, what can be done with all the investment we've got downtown, more people spending time downtown, perhaps more people living downtown. Mm-hmm. What can we do as a city, or is there anything we can do to encourage a grocery store to come downtown?
So one, you have to build that critical mass. and business opportunities will take care of themselves. And once we get to that critical mass, a grocery store will move in, and I think you'll see that happen very soon. There's still more apartments and condos going in downtown Wichita, and still more planned, and so you'll see business catch up with that. And I think that we don't want government to open up a grocery store. We ran a hotel.
Well, we did. We ran a hotel for a while.
But we didn't do it very well.
Yeah.
And so we don't want a government running a grocery store. So
proceeds from the Hyatt have been well used.
So we will provide the framework and certainly encourage the critical mass to congregate, and then you'll see a grocery store and an opportunity to come that way.
316-491-5787. That is the number if you'd like to give us a call and ask the mayor anything you want. Some of the legacy things that were brought up, well, you just saw them here. And regarding baseball, when does the actual team, this is a question I haven't had answered yet, and maybe I need to talk to the baseball owners, but when do we actually get players in town to start swinging bats and practicing and that kind of thing?
So they still follow the spring training guidelines of the Major League squad. So when spring training comes around, they'll disperse to the appropriate spring training area, and then once they get assigned, then they will come to Wichita and shortly before the season and start getting acclimated to the ballpark. I think their first 5 games are on the road, and then the first home game's April the 14th, and so it'll be just an exciting time in Wichita to see that kind of energy right there on the river, and looking forward to all of the opportunities. I hear the rumors that there's some business ventures already in the making that's ready to be announced here very shortly.
Yes.
And that's really great news. And certainly this, not loan as you said, but a true grant of $14 million is going to help all of that be more successful.
And I guess they have to follow the regular baseball guidelines. They don't get a divot to get started early. I just used a golf term referring to baseball. Okay,
I know, I saw that.
Do I get a divot for that?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, fine. 316-491-5787 is the number. Nabil, you have a question. I hope I'm saying your name right. Nabil, you're on the show. What is your question?
Okay. What I would like to know is if Amtrak is going to be going through Wichita. In the past, they talked about whether Amtrak will be going through Wichita.
Right. Yeah, we're still working on that. In fact, I think the state is undertaking a study right now to look at the feasibility of Amtrak and the condition of the tracks themselves. And depending on what that cost is, there's an opportunity potentially to bring passenger rail service back through Wichita, Kansas, because that is the only gap remaining. And if they bring that back here, you could literally ride a train from San Antonio to Chicago. But right now, there's a gap between Oklahoma City and Newton. And until they fix that gap, you're not going to see passenger rail service. So it kind of depends on the study that the state's undertaken, and I haven't heard when that's supposed to be finalized, but I think this year.
I thought it was supposed to be before the beginning of the new year.
Yeah.
And is this the Heartland Flyer line that we're basically referencing? So if you're not familiar with that, basically there's that gap, and they have to look at, I believe it's the Burlington Northern line to see if that track is there. And I'd asked an engineer this question at one time: is it way out of the ballpark? Is it not even a credible idea? And he said, no, it's within that. So they have to study the rail traffic that's on it now for carrying
because
stuff.
It carries freight right now, and,
Yes.
and can you carry freight and passenger service, and are the tracks in the shape that they need to be in to carry passengers safely? And that's what this study will tell us.
I guess Union Station's right there, so if we do get it, people can hop out and enjoy
Union Station again.
316-491-5787 is the number. You can ask anything you'd like, including legacy questions. I do have a legacy question that somebody asked me earlier in the week in the news business. They were asking, look, when it came to running for mayor and the process of running for mayor, is it a process that you don't like, or is it a process that you've just gotten used to? Because this one had certainly a lot of controversy. Is it something you get used to?
I don't know that you ever get used to it, and I think this process was the worst I've seen. It became very partisan, and hard on the family, and that's the difficult part, and it maybe scares good people off from running for mayor, and so I don't know, but we never intended to be mayor. It was just something that happened along the way. I can tell you, I've been working since I was 13 years old, and when I was 17, I was running the family business, and the last thing on my mind was opportunity to be mayor of the city. I grew up in Hoover's Orchard. I don't know of anybody in Hoover's Orchard that thought that they were going to be mayor of Wichita, but still have lifelong friends that live back in the same neighborhood I grew up in, and it was just, I would have never thought in my wildest dreams that I would have dined with presidents. I sat on 3 different committees in the White House, and actually dined with presidents of different countries, and what an opportunity. And so I feel really blessed, and the biggest blessing that my wife and I have is we're celebrating our 39th year here in December, and we have 3 kids that are married, and they all turned out tremendous, and all of my kids are way smarter than I am.
That's good to hear. That's the only thing you can hope for, is that you're doing a good job, and they end up smarter than you. So
absolutely,
I like
and they're all doing very, very well. And so we truly do feel blessed, and the opportunities that we've had are opportunities that I would have never even dreamed of. And so I didn't set out to be mayor or build a legacy, and we'll let time tell what that looks like.
Do you do things when you're the mayor that other people don't do? Did I see you drive a dump truck once out of
I was
baseball
in the
stadium?
dump truck,
Oh, you
but
weren't
they didn't let
driving.
me drive it.
Oh, okay. Well, that was pretty close.
I think
anyway.
they said something about insurance.
It was one of those big monster Tonka.
Monster.
It was
a Tonka
huge.
toy looking truck,
It
but
did
really
look that way.
full
It was
size.
yellow with the dump. So
Yeah.
that was a fun event. I got to go to that
Yeah.
for the ribbon cutting there, and you turned dirt on the stadium. Let's show some baseball video again. I was curious. I wanted to ask a couple of questions, some maybe not specifics about the baseball diamond, but yeah,
Right.
I guess specifics. So roughly now, home plate is set, and then we kind of based everything off of that.
Right.
When you're looking out over that,
Right.
looking towards the river, what's it going to be like sitting in the stands? Because
Oh my goodness!
that's
So
my
it's
question.
I've been all through that stadium now just
Yes.
recently, and it just has tremendous views of the skyline of the city of
Is it
Wichita.
taller than Lawrence
It's
Dumont?
taller
It
than
seems-
Lawrence
okay.
Dumont. It has a lot more seating. So I tell people all the time, the old stadium only had about 8 points of concession where you could buy a Coke or a hot dog or a ice cream bar or whatever you wanted. The new stadium's going to have 70 points of concession, and it has about 10 times as many bathrooms, and it has space all the way around. We have real bullpens, and we have, I understand they're going to put in a microbrewery at the stadium, and
Oh, I have not heard that.
and
That's-
brew their own beer there, and it's just they'll have restaurant opportunities, and just it's so much bigger and more vibrant than the old stadium, and it has club level seats. So the stadium has fixed seats for 10,100. The old stadium, I think, might have held 4,500.
Yeah, I didn't think it reached the
So,
5,000 level.
yeah.
Here's the question that I'm going to ask before anybody else gets the chance to ask. If there's going to be a microbrewery, will there be a Longwell beer?
No, I don't think they're going to have who knows? There could be. I don't know. Everybody just needs to get along well.
Okay. That's actually pretty funny. No, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
316-491-5787. We're getting along well here too, so I get it. We have another caller. Don, is it? Sorry, or Bob? No, Bob, you're on the show. You have a question about Century 2. Bob, welcome to the show.
Yes, I had a question why we don't have a light on top of Century 2 anymore.
Well, I thought there was a light. I think that's something that's dictated probably by the FAA when you have something that sticks up potentially in the flight line. So I know that there's some antennas that stick up there that my understanding is maybe the lights burn out. We'll check into that. But I love Century 2. I would love to see us repurpose it. I hope we can find a reuse for it, but the community ultimately is going to get to decide, and it's not going to be my decision. I'll just be one of the citizens of Wichita that weighs in at some point.
You're returning to citizen status.
I am returning to citizen status.
You know, there are several different things with Century 2 in the plans when you get a look at those plans. And the question has been brought to me by the Save Century 2 group, is they believe there's only one that has Century 2, or maybe 2
Yeah,
that has
only
Century
one
2
really that
still
saves
in the
it.
configuration.
Yeah, only one that really
So
saves
it's
it.
interesting to see those, and is it possible we could see an aquarium out of Century 2? I've heard that asked as well.
That was an idea thrown out there. Who knows? I mean, anything's possible, I suppose, but I'd like to see it potentially be repurposed in some way.
Well, it's fascinating. Look at some of these scenarios. 3A, there's the one that
That one saves
has
Century 2 and saves the library and builds the convention center where it needs to be built and tied into the hotel, and has the potential to have some great green space and a pedestrian bridge over to the ballpark village area. And that would be my vote, is that one right there. I would hope that the community agrees. But here's what I am struggling with a little bit, is just the price tag of everything and how big it's grown.
There's one, scenario 1A does not have that there, and they've
Yeah.
got some things along Douglas there. I do notice that in all of these, as we look at them, kind of screen 1B here, there is a fair amount of green space there that's
Sure.
happening, and
Yeah.
I see that bridge to the diamond being there, which I think would be well utilized. I'm guessing a
Oh,
lot of selfies
absolutely.
would be taken there, and
So I think what you also have is when you bring in convention opportunities that we're missing out on, those are people that will come and utilize that ballpark.
everybody likes something new.
Right.
Now, when you say you have concerns about the price tag, there's 3B, which
Yeah,
Century
that's
2
sorta,
kind of
kinda,
unknown
not really.
Of what that would be.
Yeah.
But you said the price tag. Does some of the council share concerns about the price tag?
So I think everyone has a little bit of concern in how you pay for that, and so it'll be interesting to see what the appetite is for the community.
Got to keep the bond rating up. I know that's
Right.
an important thing for Wichita. Okay, 316-491-5787. That's the number if you have Century 2 questions or anything else. I did want to bring up the baseball team kind of in conjunction with looking towards the other side of the river. I know we've got all this development happening right now on the west bank, but on the east bank side, that's kind of an unknown for a lot of people. And there are still a lot of questions about what comes next, not only for transit, but what comes next for what's going to go in those spaces. And the one question that came up last time, I asked some of the council members about this, they really didn't have an answer. What happens with that space for the old water walk? Do we know how we're going to utilize that right now?
So right now, Jack DeBoer and his group actually has that under contract, and they have the opportunity to fill that space up. But whatever we do on the East Bank, I think will help that. Certainly, if there's an opportunity to look at building a new performing arts center, I think that water walk area would be a perfect location to place a new performing arts center, and boy, that would bring other opportunities in that water walk area.
Yeah, okay, 316-491-5787. Give us a call, and even if you give us a call and your voice doesn't sound quite right and you can't be on the show, I'll ask the question. Barbara had
There you
called
go.
us. She didn't feel comfortable talking on the air, but Barbara, you had a question about handicap accessibility at the new ballpark.
Yeah.
A concern I'm assuming she has.
Right.
And will there be surface handicap parking spots
Right
there?
next to the building.
Right next to the
Right
building?
next to the building. So we'll have handicap spaces off of Maple Street, right on the south side of the baseball stadium.
Maple, okay.
I think there's 138 parking
Oh,
spaces there,
okay.
and many of those will be dedicated for handicap.
Now, what about you're in your wheelchair, or if you're not at a point where you have to use a wheelchair, maybe you're using your walker. What's the accessibility getting in and out?
So
I think
here's
that's
the
maybe the
coolest
basis
thing.
of her
So
question.
here's the
here.
coolest thing. So there's a 30-foot wide concourse that wraps all the way around the stadium. So you can literally wheel into the stadium. You can wheel all the way around the stadium. And we put in a handicap accessible tunnel that gets you right down to the field level. So we have a visitors tunnel, we have a home team tunnel, and we have a handicap accessible tunnel for those that need to wheel down to the field level seats, or you can stay on the concourse level and set in some handicap accessible seats there, or you can wheel right down to the field.
I like that concept. I like it
Yeah,
a lot.
So we really catered to the handicap.
Well, that's good news. Good to hear. And also I guess I'll ask a remedial question that she may have as well, as getting in and out of restrooms and that kind of thing. Any worries?
All handicap accessible.
They all of them are. So
Yeah.
there won't be designated handicap.
No.
Okay. Well, that answers that question. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah.
316-491-5787. That's the number. We'll take your questions on Facebook as we always do. Here's a question. What would be the best source of money to pay for a transit system? Now, I'm not quite sure about this question because we've got new money coming in, and that's a grant. That's federal money coming back into Kansas. But what are your thoughts?
So the best source of money would get partners from the federal government to step up and help us like they used to, and that's declined every year. It used to be several $1 million a year more than it is today, and I would love to see that climb back up to where it used to be, and our federal partners chip in and help us with transit systems. But if we don't get that, I think it's just a number of different revenue streams that we can look at and prioritize how we fix transit.
Okay. Well, 316-491-5787. Nona, you have a question about getting a street repaired. You're on the show. Nona, what is your question?
My question is, who's in charge when you have a street that the county is right down the middle of that street? Douglas, between 127th Street and Greenwich, has, as my understanding, has a jurisdiction. On the south side is county, and on the north side it's Wichita.
So we have to reach an agreement with the county if we're going to do that entire street, and we've done that a number of times. We did that out west on 45th Street between Mays and 119th. We reached an agreement in that case with the city of Mays, the city of Wichita, and the county to go in and repair that street. We've also reached an agreement with the county to repair 127th Street in places that's part of it in the county, part of it in the city, because Crestview is not in the city, it's in the county. And so we have to make agreements with the county, and that's not something that can't be done. It's an extra hurdle that we have to cross, and in those cases you just have to appeal to both your city commissioner, who sets the priorities for that district, and your county commissioner, and get them talking about the needed repairs in that area.
I know the city and county have worked together in the past.
Yeah,
I'm sure they will
continue
to work together in the future. 316-491-5787. That is the number to call if you have a question for the mayor. Again, welcoming any question you have, legacy questions if you want. As far as the downtown baseball stadium goes, your thoughts on the league that they're going to play in? That was a question that was brought to me a couple of weeks ago, and we'd had other people on the show because you weren't on the show because of the elections coming up. But your thoughts there?
So we're going to get to see all of the AAA teams from many different leagues. So the Dodgers AAA team will play here, the Royals AAA team, the Cardinals AAA team, and the Texas Rangers AAA team, and we get to see the top talent. And the AAA team that's coming to Wichita was recently ranked as the 4th best team in minor league baseball, and so you're going to see some quality talent come into this area and get to see people that will step into the major leagues very, very soon. And so it is a stepping stone for the majors, and oftentimes they have a short stint, and we'll get to see some of the very best talent at a fraction of the cost that you would go to a major league game.
It is going to be much cheaper than going to.
Much cheaper.
Yeah, and I guess the gist of that question that was brought to me was will we see the Royals come farm?
So we will get to see the Royals Farm Club team come in here.
Okay, so we have callers that have been wanting to thank the mayor for his service.
That's very kind.
Do we actually have the callers on the line, or should I just go ahead and? All right. Well, Steve wanted to say thanks for your service.
Well,
Peggy B wanted to say, great job. Thank you for all you've done. Pamela also wanted to say we appreciate you doing what you've done for all this time.
Well, that's very kind. Thank you all very much for
Marion.
Yeah.
Peggy O. NJ.
Well, that's we really feel blessed for the opportunity that we had to serve this community, and so it's much appreciated. Oftentimes when you're mayor, you only hear from those that are angry and those that are asking for something that they feel like it's not getting done, and not very often do we hear from those that are happy, but it's very much appreciated, and I truly loved serving this community, and I feel blessed in so many different ways. But at the end of the day, we're happy with what we've been able to do for this city, and looking forward to the next opportunity and to enjoying our family.
I know you will enjoy that family time. I don't doubt that at all. 316-491-5787. If you have a question for the mayor, and I know we've talked a lot of baseball tonight, and that's coming up, and that's forefront in everybody's mind right now with the merchandise sales taking off and all those things. But outside of baseball, what has been the thing that you can point to in your own mind to say, this makes me happy?
So I tell people all the time, I probably take tremendous pride in the fact that we were able to keep Cargill in Wichita. That was no easy task. Many people thought Cargill was leaving us for Texas, and Texas certainly was throwing a lot of money at them. And what we're thankful for is money wasn't the overriding factor. There were so many other things that helped Cargill make that decision for them. And one of them, and I mentioned it today when we were opening up the highway, one of them that ranked high on Cargill's list of issues that they weighed to make that decision was commute times. Commute times to the airport, commute times for their workers. And Cargill brings people in and out of town every single day, and commute times to the airport are pretty important. Well, you can get to the airport from Cargill headquarters in about 7 minutes.
Yes.
And so it's very simple. And Texas, where they were going to relocate, it was going to be an hour and a half in traffic.
Quality of life.
So quality of life, you know, and those little things that make a big difference, and money's kind of at the bottom of that list. But I'm going to tell you, keeping Cargill in Wichita really set the table for everything else that followed.
I remember when they announced that they were staying, I remember seeing the look on the mayor's face. You were like a kid in a candy store for that announcement.
So, you know, I've said this before. I think that going through that took 10 years off my life. It was stressful, and, you know, especially since we changed the rules a little bit. And we said we weren't going to hand cash to corporations anymore. And so that was a blessing, and I love them, and they love Wichita, and it's something that's going to help us for decades to come, and
a lot of good
bring
jobs
more
there.
opportunities. You know, it's not just Cargill, but it's other opportunities because that they're here.
Marilyn, we do have time for a couple more callers. 316-491-5787. Marilyn, you are on the show. What is your question for the mayor?
My question is, the traffic is delayed quite a while between the streets of Lincoln and Harry on South Seneca because of a railroad train that goes there, and it just is so slow. It bogs up the whole traffic up. I'm wondering if they're going to be able to control that at all.
Yeah, the railroads are difficult to work with at times. You know, the only way to truly control that is to elevate those tracks, and that's hundreds of millions of dollars to fix that. And that's frustrating when you're sitting at a train, and I get that. I've done that before too. And we used to think that we could dictate to how long a train could block a street, and we found out that we can't dictate it. The federal government doesn't allow us to dictate it, so we're at the mercy of the trains themselves.
And that was also state law too, is not allowed to dictate, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, so we don't have any control over the railroads.
Okay, 316-491-5787 is the number. We've got time for two more questions, three. David, you have a question for the mayor. You're on the show. Welcome, David.
Yes, I was just curious, all the whoopla about the new naming of the ball team. Are they going to rename the stadium? Does it have a new name, or what is the deal with that?
So I think that they're looking at opportunities that might generate revenue to potentially name the stadium, and they're still working through some potential new opportunities of people that might want to sponsor that. So that's up to the team. Again, we get to share in that revenue, so we hope that they're successful, and we think that they will be. And the name of the team certainly was the team itself that made that deciding that decision themselves. And people will get used to it.
I
tell people if the worst thing that we have to complain about is a name of a baseball team, Wichita's in a pretty good spot.
Absolutely, and I've seen it on blogs nationally that the look of the logo and the merchandise is very professional, very well done.
It's a very, very well done logo, and I think people will enjoy it over time.
All right, one more question. Joe, you're on the show. What's your question?
I was wondering if Mayor Longwell would he ever consider being part of the new mayor and kind of guide, and because it seems like you guys put in a lot of time. Anybody in politics put in a lot of time. They get to know the position, and then you're gone.
Right. So I don't know that the new mayor is going to want me helping him guide anything in terms of learning the job, and that's up to the mayor himself. And I've extended my hand to offer to help him with any kind of transition that he might need to learn the job. But it is something that's going to be a bit of a learning curve. But we have a good council, and I'm confident that the council will still be able to accomplish some great things, and Wichita's on a good track. I have no doubt that the city will be successful for years to come.
You have an experienced council right now.
We have a very experienced council, so that's very helpful.
Do we have the baseball video? I wanted to. You love this. Roll it. Let's have a look. Baseball.
Hello, are you an accident? Yes, I am. Come on in. I think we were able to salvage the lock. There's a light, certain kind of light. Muchas gracias. That never shone on me.
The pink.
Let's go Mets. I want my life to be live with you. Number 6. Oh man, it's in my head on. You don't know what it's like. That's crazy. Baby, you don't know what it's like to love somebody, the way I love you.
So Major League Baseball commercial, we're showing it again for Major League. You're welcome, Major League Baseball. Reminds me a little bit about when I took my son Isaiah to his first baseball game. It's kind of fun.
Isn't that what it's all about? Building memories, building a relationship. I truly can tear up over that video.
I like the music. Who was that? Was that
the Bee Gees, Brother Gibbs, and To Love Somebody, and it just truly is, what it's all about. Moments with family, building memories, and enjoying family time. And I think that commercial was well done, and it shares what we're going to have the opportunity right here in Wichita is for moms and dads to build memories with their kids.
Are your kids going to, I assume they'll go to the new baseball stadium?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Of course, my kids are all grown, but we'll have a chance to take our grandkids and enjoy making memories of our own. So we're looking forward to what the future holds for us, for our family, and for Wichita. And again, I feel so blessed to have this opportunity, and looking forward to what comes next. But certainly that commercial wraps it up very, very well. It's truly about to love somebody.
So, do you have season tickets? Are you going?
I don't have season tickets
I'm going back
yet,
and forth on that. I know I'm going to go. I just haven't decided yet if I want to do the whole thing. But I love it that they're going to have so many events out there, about 200 a year. So I'm kind of looking forward to the Santa Claus thing in the winter. That'll be fun.
Yeah, the Winter Wonderland and all of the other events. They're going to have drive-in movie night at the ballpark. How cool is that?
Awesome. I think I actually get my son out to that one. I think he's 16 now. So I think that's good. I love seeing that video. I'm glad you recommended us show that, because that just brings back a lot of memories of my boy and going to the baseball diamond and build new memories, Wichita. So, Mayor, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service.
I've enjoyed you, and you're a tremendous asset to this community as well, and appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And my heart goes out to you and what you've done for this community and all of the trials that you've been through in your life.
I appreciate that, Mayor, very much. Thank you for watching. Call the Mayor Wichita.